Welcome to Whispers to a Bride, where we talk about the stuff no one else is talking about. We are going deep on the emotional aspects of getting married, the stress, drama, and turbulence that affects your own sense of identity and your closest relationships. We are talking about what it means to be a bride and how to navigate this sacred time with more grace and ease. I'm your host, Kara Gassabay. As a life coach and therapist, I'm going to be sharing super practical tips so that you can not only rise to the occasion of your wedding, but also your life. Hey there, welcome back. This is Whispers to a Bride. I am your host, Kara, and I just wanted to pop in to your ear today with a pretty simple but important reminder as you're planning your wedding or just living your life. And that is, if you can, fix it. I have talked to a few brides lately who had made some decisions in their wedding planning that they instantly regretted. One was with a dress, the other was with sort of the roles that her friends were playing in the wedding, doing a reading. The people that she chose, she left someone out. She wants to include them. And it's so interesting in both cases. There's this feeling, I think, that a lot of people have that once they make a decision, it's really hard to undo it or redo it or fix it, right? They make it mean a lot of things. I'll never forget this one client I had who hated her dress, and she just, like, it was every cell of her body wanted to get a different dress, but it was like she couldn't allow herself to do it. And I asked her, is it a financial thing? Is it this? Is it that? And like everything in her life was setting her up and allowing for her to simply revisit this issue, pick a different dress. And it was so hard for herself to give her permission to sort of fix this mistake. There was a part of her that really felt like, in order to stay in alignment, in order to be sort of consistent and sort of stay with herself, she had to sort of just suffer through the fact that she was going to wear a dress that she hated on her wedding day. And I really think once we had our conversation and we really talked it through, because I'm not for like, I don't think throwing money at every problem solves it. Really, usually it doesn't. And in this case, though, it was so interesting how it wasn't a matter of thinking that like something newer, better, fancier would solve her issues. There was something for her about needing the permission and encouragement to just say, you know what, I messed up on that. You enter into wedding world. It's so overwhelming. There are so many decisions to make. There are so many opinions. There are so many people to please. There are so many trends. There are so many just pressures coming from your peers or your family or weddings you've been to or seen in movies and just ideas that you've had. It gets really overwhelming. And so it's really easy to make a mistake, especially with like the dress buying, something that people do usually very early on in the process. And then sometimes they end up buying a dress for a certain type of wedding. And then once the plans come together, it's like a very different affair and the dress doesn't really match it. And it can be like such a bummer to have made that mistake. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people don't want to admit that they made a mistake like that. But the problem is when the answer is, well, I can't fix it because I won't let myself have that grace and have that humility and just fix what is wrong. Like that's the problem. I really believe that your wedding and your life will throw you enough things that you cannot fix, you cannot control, that will cause you heartache, disappointment, discomfort, frustration, right? Like those things will come. Those things that you absolutely don't have any control over and that you can't fix. But when you can fix it, I really think that you should. So this goes for something like switching the dress, changing a venue, a vendor. I had another client who really was after she got her engagement photos back, was like, "This is just not my photographer." And it was really, really hard. It can be awkward. It takes uncomfortable conversations. It can take losing money. It can take whatever. But where you can, I think you owe it to yourself to circle back and fix the things you know were just a mistake. And realizing that, like, nothing has gone wrong when you realize that you want to make a change and you want to make a fix. And if you can afford to, I think you should. And I think it's just reminding ourselves. I think a lot of us have this false sense that somehow, in adding more suffering and adding more burden to our plight, that somehow there is something respectable in that, or redeeming in that, especially if you were raised in some of these religious traditions. It's just like, yeah, the more that sort of martyr thing of like, I can't be happy. I can't have what I want. I can't. It kind of prevents you from taking sort of positive, inspired action to rectify things that are wrong, to fix things that you can fix. And it just kind of drives me a little nutty because when you're on the outside, you're like, of course, if it were someone else, you would give them the advice to just fix it, change it, own the mistake, and like move on in a different direction. Again, it's not always the case that it's possible, but where you can, I really think you should fix it. And this also goes for mistakes you may have made with the people in your life, in your wedding sort of circumstance, so your close friends and your family. Like I was saying, that example of the bride who had invited two of her friends to do readings and then realized that she really wanted to include this other friend. And how do we do that? And not just say, well, like, sorry, the decision's made. She was like, you know what? I think I made a mistake here. And now I want to fix it and think of a new role for this other person to feel included in her wedding day. And it's just such a great reminder. Like if you had said to your mother-in-law, no, you can't come dress shopping because that's what I'm doing with my mom. But then you really decided, you know what? It would be really easy for me to include her. It would be really a wonderful moment to share together. I want to circle back and apologize and invite her along. Like owning our mistakes and fixing them when we can is such a beautiful thing to do. And I think it's especially important at this phase in your engagement phase when there are so many things in flux, things are changing, priorities are shifting, identity is shifting, your relationships are all changing. It's very easy to lose your footing. It's very easy to make decisions based on what you think you're supposed to do, right? And then that takes you out of the narrative of your own life. It makes you a character in some other play. And then all of a sudden, sometimes you get that flash of clarity and you're like, wait, this is my experience. This is my day. I don't have to live up to any archaic traditions or blueprints that I assumed everybody was following, some nebulous etiquette rules that like everybody thinks they're doing a thing when really following your heart, doing what's best for you and your family, what is the truest expression of how you want to experience this day in your life. That's really the highest sort of order. And that's the rule for which you should be operating. But again, it is so easy to go off course and it's so easy to make a mistake at this stage. And nobody wants to make a mistake at this phase of life, usually because there are so many eyeballs on you and the stakes are high in terms of time and most importantly, money. Everything in wedding world is super expensive and things feel competitive and hard to book and all the vendors and the contracts. So I know why people sort of freeze and panic and don't want to circle back when they know they've made a mistake. Giving yourself that little bit of latitude, giving yourself that grace, letting yourself make a mistake, own it, and fix it is such a gift to you and the people in your life who I think would be most benefited and served from you operating from that secondary glance. Because your first pass at this, like, it's really hard to get it right on the first pass. Like, you're gonna have said the wrong thing, you're gonna have, like, overstated. I find this happens so many times with my brides, like, they started talking to a bunch of people about their wedding, and then once they got down to the spreadsheet, they realized they can't invite all these people, and then they were, like, feeling so bad because they were like, the way they were talking to them in the early phases, it seemed like that this person would be invited. This happens a lot with coworkers and stuff, and it's like, you can fix these things. You can circle back and you can say, like, I screwed up. I should have, kept some of these conversations closer to the vest until I really knew what I was dealing with budget wise and timeline wise and guest list wise. Whatever it is, I think it's just so important where you have the opportunity, fix it. There is no reward in suffering and in not allowing yourself to change your mind or take action from a new set of information and data. It's just so important. And I think I'm just thinking too about, like, even with my kids, this is something I feel like that comes up. It's like you cannot fix everything for them, but where you can and it doesn't hurt, I think it's best to do that. Because, like I said in the beginning, life, your wedding, your relationships will give you plenty of things that you cannot fix and you must deal with. So when you see an opportunity, fix it. Hopefully that helps. If there's something going on in your wedding world that you cannot figure out how to fix, if you should fix it, what's the best way to fix it, because you feel like you've really gotten yourself in the mud, I am here for you. Feel free to reach out. My calendar is open and I look forward to speaking with you. And until next time, I'm wishing you nothing but bridal bliss.